Hi, I'm Ria Flanagan, and this is the Happiness Playbook series. I'm so glad to have you here today. Today, I have somebody really special, Brittany Pollard-Stevens. She actually works with me at Rise Up Recover as one of my associate substance abuse counselors, but she also has her own coaching business, and she's also an author of a children's book. So she's going to tell you a little bit more about the Chloe, the Moody Manatee, and also talk about her coaching business and the work she does in people's lives to bring more happiness into their world. So, Brittany, tell me a little bit about yourself. So glad to have you here.
Thanks, Ria. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Brittany, and I am a licensed associate substance abuse counselor. I specialize in trauma and addiction, and my work. I have a coaching business in a really small town in Arizona called Wickenburg. If you're familiar, if anyone's ever been in Arizona on their way to Vegas, we are a blip on the radar on the way there. And I have a coaching business there. Along the way, I wrote a book called Chloe, the Moody Manatee, which I have a copy of right here. It is all about helping a young manatee named Chloe understand her emotions. And the premise of the book is behind every feeling, there is an unmet need. And in the book, Chloe is labeled as moody. In the beginning of every chapter, she is moody about something. It's based on a very near and dear stepdaughter of mine in my life, and helping her navigate her emotions and not be threatened or discouraged when she has big feelings, but learning to listen to them and understand if there is an unmet need. That was the crux and the heart behind this book. As it was birthed and put out into the world, what was revealed was that there's not a lot of conversations in this town, at least, with families and children and how to navigate emotions of little kids, especially if you are a trauma survivor as an adult. A lot of us are in cycles we don't even really know are dysfunctional. It's just, this is all we know. This is how I was taught. If I'm angry, I go shut down. If I'm sad, I block it out. Certain feelings equate weakness or failure, or, people apologizing because they're emoting. And that kind of dysfunctional pattern is no longer serving us. And I think as people are in pursuit of happiness and joy in their life, I think sometimes they fragment the parts of them that feel ugly, the parts of them that feel uncomfortable. And so the book really speaks in very soft language, helping little kids understand that even when they are moody, they are loved, they are enough, they are safe. And we can listen to their emotions. And my hope was that it creates a dialogue between the parent and the child, because we aren't meant to be threatened by how we feel, but really use them like smoke detectors in our house. They alert us when something's off. They motivate us to act. They allow us to reveal something that we need to do differently. And so that's really the heart behind Chloe, the Moody Manatee. And yeah, it was an honor. It was an honor to be part of the process. Now that it's out in the world, I hope it reaches the right kinds of people that need this kind of language for themselves and their children.
Yeah, and you really speak to the importance of emotions and teaching children, right, to embrace them. And I really talk a lot about the gifts of emotions. Like if you really look at what is this emotion, teaching me, or what is the wisdom I'm getting, or what is, what am I learning? I think that when we're stuffing, right, we're losing all those gifts, that maturity, and we get, we touch on emotional intelligence, which is a big buzzword, but it's also huge working in organizations, and it's huge for good leaders and all these things. And we want to teach our children to be good leaders, right? So we're teaching them about their emotions early on, that they're important, that they're, that they can, all their emotions are useful, that, not like, oh, you can't be angry, or you can't this, or you can't that. It's no, like, what's that about? Let's get curious about it.
Yeah. And I think, at least my background in trauma and addiction, I think this is a huge connecting factor as to why people become addicted to the substances or the things that they do, is because if they're not able to hold space for their emotions, then they escape them. They try to numb them. They try to get away. And then they're on the hook with some sort of substance that is now they can't get away from. And to break this cycle of addiction also requires us to sit in the emotions that we are probably intimidated by or unsure as to what they are. Um, Honestly, you don't have to have an addiction problem to struggle with your emotions. If someone has ever been punished for expressing an emotion, it becomes a learned response. And for a lot of people, they just get stuck in the cycle of addiction because numbing or escaping is the safest way out. And I think in our work in specific, the healing of that cycle, we do then need to label and allow for labeling of I'm scared, I'm sad, I feel scared, I feel intimidated,
Mhm.
and to hold space for that feeling, because then it unifies all the fragmented parts of us that we weren't really taught to caretake, because that's all of us.
Mhm.
We're all those feelings. We're so many things. And I do believe very strongly that I think that is when we can unify and holistically love the parts of us that have safety in us, that I think happiness is achieved. And I think that's peace that doesn't make a lot of sense. The world doesn't sell us that. It's an internal work. And I just think that more people need language like this. I think more conversations about it's just a feeling. Those aren't the facts. I feel like the world hates me. I feel fat. I feel all these things, but just to hold space, that's my feeling. I feel this, riding the wave all the way through and regulating that I am loved. I'm enough. It's okay. Everything's going to be okay. And I can do hard things,
Mhm.
even feel my feelings, you know?
Yeah, and our thoughts are not facts. I think, you really nail it there because, we can have these negative thoughts and then, they bring these feelings that, I feel like I'm not good enough. And again, these limiting thoughts, right? These limiting beliefs about ourselves really start in childhood. So
Yeah.
being able to acknowledge the difference between, okay, I'm upset about something, but that doesn't make me bad, or, that I'm not good enough and things
Yeah.
like that. And reading, having these children's books created by counselors, by therapy, right, with clinical backgrounds is
Yeah.
brilliant. I'm really a fan of, and I bought your book. I'm so excited about it.
Thank you.
I really gravitate for my children books that have messages about learning, emotional development,
Yeah.
all of these things, because it's not about just giving them pretty pictures. In fact, I think a lot of the fairy tales that we grew up on were not helpful.
No.
That the princess meets her prince and then she lives happily ever after. Come on,
Yeah.
people. Like, this is not reality.
Yeah.
Marriages are tough and relationships. And when we're looking outside of ourselves for happiness, we're going to find that that's not where it lives.
It's
So I
true.
think really, yeah, starting in these early ages and what we're reading to our children. Another big issue, right, is screens, right? What
Mm.
our children are accessing through the internet, through, all of these things, and being really careful because, their little brains are just absorbing everything. And if they're not, if they're watching things that are too old for them, or, things like that, it can be really damaging. I'm a CSAT, so I work with sex addiction. And a lot of times people are telling me they saw pornography as early as, age 6, 7, 8, you know what I mean? Because they're not supervised. There's no locks on computers. Kids are just accessing anything. So I think, again, like really being selective of what you're bringing into your child's world is so important.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because I'm a millennial. I was one of the last generations to live as a young kid without the internet, and as
Mm,
an adult and as a parent now, watching my my family navigate the limitlessness of the internet. It really creates this really interesting. And up until
mm,
now, I've heard so many older people like myself and beyond complaining about the poisons of the internet. And oh, kids can get, like you said, they can get into all kinds of stuff online. And
mm,
I think because it's a wave that's not going anywhere. I think I've heard older generations that just like unplug from the internet and they have that luxury where they don't have to engage. But the younger
mm,
generations, that is where their friends are. That is
mm.
where their school is. For a lot of kids, they go to school online, or they have friends all across the world. They're on Discord servers together and they game, all that stuff. And so
Mhm.
from a resilient standpoint, I really like the idea of, like you said, authors that are therapists, because what we're doing is we're creating content for them to find on the internet. If we can't beat the internet, then let's be the change. Like, we can put information out like this for families to discuss, and help create barriers and help identify what is unsafe and safe for kids developmentally. Because I mean, it is a limitless cesspool if you look for it. And if you're a teenager or you're a middle school kid, you're Googling things that live in cesspools, you know? And so, for algorithm's sakes, I think it's really great that therapists like us, we're having these kinds of conversations. We're putting it out into the world. We're sprinkling it out into the internet because someone's going to find
Mhm.
it. And
Mhm.
if again, technology is only going to be advancing. And so we've got to learn how to use it for good, because it is a power that it can be very destructive. But as we've seen in telehealth sessions, and podcasts now are so huge, and the access to information has also become such a benefit for small towns. I live in a very small town, and I am one of two counselors in this town that do coaching and things like that. There's just not a lot of access to information that is good, or at least it feels that way, right? We just talked about feelings. It feels like this never-ending battle we're pushing against the evils of the internet, when the truth is, the fact is, if you go looking for trouble, you'll find it. And if you start looking for the good, you will also find it. And so I think that's what this is. I love this opportunity because we're putting good out there and someone will find it. We can teach our kids to look for the good, know what a dangerous person is, and having conversations about what is a catfish. You know, back in the day, we knew what that was, but do they? And
Mhm.
I, so
Oh,
I think it is what it is, right? We have to radically accept that this is the world now. And if we can make it a little bit better in our corner, I feel like then it's been worth it. That's why we write books, right? That's why we talk about it, because it spreads the good news, and people really need good news right now. We always do.
I know, this is so true, right? And that's a big thing too. I always come back to why feel all the emotions and not numb out when some of the emotions are difficult
Yeah.
is, well, if we are numbing out, we're also not feeling the joy, passion, and love, right? We're
Yeah.
not having those experiences, and and getting into things like intensity, talking about, so, again, like being responsible with our emotions and what we're looking at and what we're bringing into our world. And I think people also get addicted to intensity, right? Be it
Yeah.
media, overworking, video gaming. Again, like I really notice, again, yes, there's these great learning opportunities on like my son's tablet, but also like there's games or things where I go, okay, it's time for dinner, and try to take the tablet, and he'll have a huge like reaction to that. So
Yeah.
we've really limited it. We're very specific now about what he can do on there, because again, you can see an addictive process
Yeah.
even with little kid games. So
Yeah.
being careful again, are they getting into intensity? Is
Mhm.
this, and even for our adult clients too, right? How are you getting into intensity? Not actually joy, not actually passion, right? But more of that like overworking, overdoing,
Yeah. Like
getting into
instant
intensity, even with,
gratification, you're right. If it feels
right.
good, do it. But
Mhm.
things that matter take time, like getting good grades at school, like you have to study, you have to do these things. And I think the internet does give us a really great, I keep saying the internet like it's an entity, but like I think technology and how our kids have access to everything, it is a natural pattern of, if I want it, I want it now. I have Amazon Prime for a reason. Like, it comes one day, but back in the day, we waited for good things, and that the ability to delay gratification is one of the key components to healing our addiction. Just because it feels good in the moment doesn't mean it's good for us. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. And yeah, I think that's really important for parents to hear that. Even though it's easier to give our kids the tablet rather than have hard conversations or have dinner at the table or whatever, it doesn't mean long term it's the best for them and even for the family as a unit. There's quality time that we're missing with each other because we're all somewhere else on screens. And I mean, talk about addiction, man. There's a whole cycle. There's withdrawal, right? You take away that tablet, there's a withdrawal symptom with that. So, and it's
Yes,
hard.
you could see it. It is hard. And you're right. I think watching the difference between my kids drawing and coloring and creating and, my son instead playing with Legos, like he's so much calmer. It's such a different, behavior. So you can really, notice the difference. Just, don't take my word for it. So Brittany, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share with us? Just, talking about what you do and how that brings happiness to other people and your work. And it's challenging work we do. Trauma and addiction is no joke. It's a serious problem. We need more help always. But yeah, what would you say, to anyone out there just that, spreading the message of what you do?
Thank you. I would say, first of all, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for having me. I think overall, uh, slowing down the cycle of that like one click wonder where you want something quickly, asking the question is, am I addicted to this thing? I think addiction is so very prevalent in all of our actions. And we only really know if we're struggling with an addictive personality or addiction cycle if we take away the thing and we are going through some sort of withdrawal or an emotional reaction. And so maybe that's everyone's homework. If you are hearing this right now and you are struggling with getting off your cell phone, doom scrolling on TikTok, or purchasing at 2 o'clock in the morning on that one day delivery, just remove it for a moment and just regulate. Sit with that feeling and notice what comes up for you because it's not scary. We're so used to numbing it out. But if we were to just sit with that inner child, that part of us who just wants to feel, allow space for that and regulate. There's nothing wrong is happening, even though it sets off all these alarms because I need my thing, my pacifier, my safety blanket, but we are safe. We're okay. And for us to have the ability to be uncomfortable without the thing, I think that's the beginning of breaking the cycle. So I leave that for anyone listening.
I love that. It's really taking the power back too, thinking about giving your power to this thing to make you feel better. But when you can do mindfulness activities, you can regulate, you can sit in yourself, you're really taking that power back and starting to realize, whew, I was sort of immersed in something that really wasn't, giving to me. I was not present. That's
Yeah.
the other piece. So getting present, for others in your life, connection. I
Mm.
always think, right, connection is so much the opposite of addiction,
Yeah.
right? So being more present in your relationships, all of those things are so powerful. So, and maybe we call it a challenge, anyone who's willing to take that challenge, and maybe it's putting the phone down, the glass of wine down, whatever it is, just to see, give yourself, 7 days of, only, being on your phone when you're taking a call, limiting that time, not scrolling on the internet, just do a challenge of 1 week just to see, what changes and how's my life. I know inpatient working at the Meadows that it was, people would come in kicking and screaming, I have to give up my cell phone and my computer. This is the end of the world. And after a week or two, they were like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, this
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
Like, just to disconnect
Mhm.
is, because we can kind of be in that all day long and it can kind of take over for a lot
Absolutely.
of people. So I think it's a great challenge. So anyone, that wants to join us and challenge themselves, we'd love to hear from you. And Brittany, I just want to thank you so much for coming and sharing. I love having you as part of our team, and so grateful for you and what you do. You're really amazing. And again, there's such a need for therapists out there writing books too. So thank you for the children's book. I purchased one for my child. And where can you get that? Is that available on Amazon?
Yeah, so you can purchase it on Amazon, but you can also get it on my website. It's www.pollardcoaching.com.
Great. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely have you back. And thank you for coming. So, everybody, come join again the Happiness Playbook series. So great to have you. We'll be having more guests. I'm so excited to start that. And Brittany was our first. So, yay, you're our first.
Thank
Yay,
you.
Brittany.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.